follow-up question.
Um, how do you know if you're making progress towards waking up? If it's a 1 or 0 thing.
Well, I didn't say 1 or 0. I said 1 or 0 is not right, because 1 and a 0 are equivalent, right? It'd be more like 0 and
infinity.
More than infinity. Quite a bit more than infinity. Infinity's, even though the human mind has a difficult time getting to that,
Mm-hmm.
it's more than that. It's more like an infinity of infinities. But now go back to the question. What was it?
Is how do you know if you're making progress?
Well, many of the you'll notice that you're a little less quick to anger, and you only get angry if it makes sense, right? You're more patient. You're consciously working on it. Your relationship to the reading changes somewhat, and you start to like enjoy it, what you're doing, more. You feel more peaceful. You're less greedy. You're less aggressive. You're less pompous. The downsides is that now you find that you're focused on things that other people just don't care about, and you'll be misunderstood because you're not like them, and the herd wants everybody to be in the herd, and if you're not part of the herd, then what's wrong with you. Okay, so those
that for me, I think that's what leads to frustration.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that without any personal details.
Maybe the social aspect of it is hard to spend more time.
Yes.
With the Dharma, and then my values are changing, or
right, and you're not interested in boring stuff that's not of no value. It's right. Not. There's no nutrition in it. I mean, and it gets worse. I'm going to warn you that it gets to where you can't. Unless a movie is really, really great, or a book or an author is, similarly, insightful. It's just like it's no good. It's
I
like
noticed this with music.
Same thing with music.
Seeing all these concerts and there's thousands of people there, all loving it, and most of them are just fine.
Well, okay, and that's, I suppose, I don't know if that's good for them or bad for them, and I don't need to judge that, but that's fine for them, right? But that this is a different way.
Right.
The world would be better with this way, right? Because it's the way of nature. It's a natural way. It accords with our actual reality, not the reality we've constructed with our minds.
Right.
So, but with regard to but like if you're a really good musician, you don't go and listen to garbage all day because you can't stand it. If you're a poet, you don't enjoy crappy poetry because or a painter, you don't go see. And so there's nothing mysterious about this, but let me warn you, like I have warned others.
Mm-hmm.
There is loneliness, or aloneness, I should say, not loneliness, aloneness at the end of these roads, or this road, I should say, which then branches off, of course, according to who you are and what you want, or what you think the world needs during your lifetime or whatever. But so you're forewarned.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
Yeah, it creates a lot of tension in me because there's part of me that just wants to socialize.
Of course,
right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But
then I go try and socialize, and it's difficult because of these things.
Well, imagine you go to a chess meet, and you're just much better at chess than everybody.
Right.
So what can you do? Maybe play 10 people at a time to keep yourself entertained. Otherwise, you're going to be bored out of your skull.
Right.
And that's just a feature of intelligence or evolution in a particular realm. And this one's no different, I suppose.
Hmm.
Well, it is different, but it's analogous, I suppose. So yeah, some of that's to be expected, and people will not understand, and they'll think you're misguided.
Hmm.
That's okay.
Well, I guess how do I deal with that frustration and that?
Well, is it frustration that you actually feel?
Yeah, I think so.
And what if, are you sure you don't feel malnourished by the people that you've been associating with?
Maybe.
Could it be that you don't feel that you're learning? Could it be that you're doing the same thing over and over and over again because that's what everyone else does?
Yeah.
Could it be that Taylor Swift is not your heart's desire?
Very possibly.
Okay, so just contemplate it. This is part of
Right.
the gig.
Right. I saw an Ed Sheeran song. He had a new release, and he's kind of like the male equivalent of Taylor Swift.
Oh, really? I thought he was more talented than that.
That's what. I thought so too. And then he had a new release, and I watched it, and it was.
Well, it could be that it's like Miguel Ruiz, right? The guy who wrote the Four Agreements. He had it all. He had the real deal going there for a while, but then the corporate, and they suck the soul out of the person, out of the artist, and you know it's a real phenomenon. You can listen to it, you can watch it happen, and of course musicians have historically, since I've been alive, resented when the corporations have gutted them for their very heart and soul.
I feel like that's gone now. Musicians don't care about that anymore.
Okay, good. What do they care about?
Just the fame, the attention.
Well, that's not music. That's fame and attention. But music is something else, right? Music, like art.
It should be.
Well, no, not should be. It is. I mean, people like fall over themselves these days for Van Gogh, right? Van Gogh couldn't sell a painting in his lifetime.
Right.
And his brother had to buy him his paints. And then he chops off his ear, and I think he commits suicide or something. You know, so yeah, don't go too far one way or the other. You know, it's the middle way kind of deal. But artists enjoy art, and fame and money are not part of that deal that I know of.
Right.
Some of the best songwriters I know of, they didn't particularly want fame. They wanted their songs to be heard, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And great music, many great musicians, you know, they don't. But see, if the corporate guys get their, and not always, right? Some people could handle it.
Right.
Canadians could handle it. Some of that, I think of Neil Young for one.
Yeah.
Of course, he was so in his own world that nobody was going to manage him. But okay, more questions
Have you
about
heard
this?
any good music recently? Anything new?
More and more, I've had to go back to the old standbys, you know, classical and Philip Glass, who, by the way, was a practicing Buddhist, I believe, and it's got some wonderful, and new music. Let me think. Well, it's always wonderful to see a young man sing with his heart, his soul, and I was listening to this kid, I forget his name, you know, the Richmond from Richmond or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's got something, and it's real and it's authentic, and it's very refreshing to see that all the fancy stuff is not there.
Yeah.
All the lights and the stages and the groupies and you know, whatever. And he's singing something that really resonates because it's real, it's authentic. He's with the way. That's what the way is at these levels, right? So to accord with the way is to be authentic, to be base. I mean, to be really base. We could call this the way of baseness. in a way, except people would misinterpret it. But you see my point. The difference between an authentic heart, and, and if you listen to early Neil Young, especially, The Needle and the Damage Done,
Mm-hmm.
what gives it its power is not his voice.
Right.
He changes our attitude towards his voice with the authenticity, the genuineness, the realness, the wayness of his heart. Singing about his friends that are dying from overdoses.
Right.
I'll probably go listen to some Neil Young after this. Okay, questions. I'm not an expert on music.
Here's one for when you're reading the flower ornament scripture.
The Avatamsaka, yes.
If I'm tired or distracted, is it better to not read it at all, or to read it and while I'm in that state?
If you're distracted, it's no fun.
Right.
If you're tired, it's no fun.
Right. But is it still fruitful, or is it better just to go get some rest?
Probably get some rest.
Yeah.
Wash your face, walk around the block. That's your body saying, hey, you got too much carbon dioxide building up or something. You need to oxygenate or something. And so, yeah, probably it means time to stretch, get up, walk around, do something else. And yeah, it's...
I guess that could be said for most practices, right? Not just flower, avatamsaka.
Anything pretty much. You won't do it as well.
Yeah.
If you're tired and distracted.
Right. What about when you're sick? How can you practice when you're sick? Or low energy?
When one is sick. That's one of the best times to practice.
How so?
Well, it gives you a different, one of the things that about comprehensive consciousness is you look at things from many points of view. But even at the mundane level, you can look at everything differently if you're laid up and you're forced to lie still. And instead of you moving through the world, the world is moving around you. And plus your body doesn't feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
But really, what does that have to do with you? Nothing, really. A body is feeling worn down. A body is, febrile.
It's what?
Febrile, has a fever. But what does that have to do with you? And so you just the opportunity to have another perspective, and a different consciousness in a way.
Right.
Look at the same situation. Don't waste a chance like that.
Okay.
Would be my recommendation. Follow up?
I guess when you're sick, it's more difficult to keep that attitude.
I was going to say the opposite.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's great for contemplation.
Not in my experience.
Yeah, well, you're still young. Yeah, everything in this world is what you make of it, right? And if you decide sickness is this horrible thing that's going to just wipe you out and, oh my God, this is horrible, da da da, you'll suffer more than if you say, okay, well, this is happening.
Mm.
It happens. The leaves fall off in the winter. They'll come back in the spring.
Right. That makes sense. Another question or comment about something you said in one of your videos.
Okay.
Someone was asking about, or something. Someone was presenting a situation, a hypothetical situation where you're at a bar and you want to talk to a girl, but you're scared to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you, if I remember correctly, you said something along the lines of like, you shouldn't be at a bar talking to women if you're scared. You should be working on yourself.
Well, what's he going to do once he gets the woman? If he gets the woman, which is highly unlikely because women don't like guys that are, well, who knows these days, but in general, outside of, weird power dynamics, there's things that most women are not attracted to men that are afraid of them. But I'm old school, so who knows these days?
Isn't it an opportunity to like face a fear and overcome it? At least in my experience.
Sure. But there's better ways to do that.
Like what?
What's the guy afraid of?
Rejection, maybe?
If he's afraid of rejection, what the hell? He needs to work on not being afraid of rejection. Good God, his ego's out of control.
But I mean, in my experience,
what does rejection mean?
In this situation, if you're interested in a girl that you see somewhere and
in a
you
bar,
want to talk to her, ask her out maybe.
In a bar, yeah. And she says, get lost.
Yeah, that would be rejection.
Oh my God. Really? That's horrible. How can a man survive that? I mean, oh my God. I'll never approach a woman in a bar again. That's just hideous. Well, yeah, that's the ego, like saying, hey, I'm this. And if you don't recognize this, then, what the hell is that? Rejection. What? Rejection. Rejection is fear of not getting what you want the way you want it. That's your ego saying, hey, I am all this. And if somebody doesn't recognize that I'm all this, then what? What is that? What's the problem?
Well, I guess I just wanted to, like...
There's another approach. Is just every time you get beat down, just stand up again.
Right.
It's a little less elegant. Yeah, you just go and look for it. Go find the most beautiful woman in the bar, the one that everybody wants to be with, and go up and ask her out for a date, and just do that over and over and over and over, and the whole thing will change for you.
Right, but that's my point. Isn't that like a good approach?
For whom?
For somebody who wants to overcome their fear, to just get rejected and then realize it's...
Yeah, but it's kind of impolite. But okay, yeah, you could do it that way. You're right. You could do that. I mean, would you like a woman to do that to you?
I wouldn't mind.
Wait a while. I mean, okay, fine. I mean, if people want to do it that way, there's no problem with it. If that's what they want. If they want to hone down their ego by getting slapped down in a bar by women that are, not interested in them, by all means. Doesn't matter how you do it. But in that context or at that time, it felt to me like it was kind of like, this is not the kind of alley you want to spend a lifetime going down, right? Because it is a side road.
Right.
So, but I don't know, for some guys, I might recommend exactly that.
Gotcha.
Depending on all kinds of factors. So it's not an absolute. The way's never absolute like that. What is it? A way can be a guide, but not a fixed path.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's all the questions I had written down.
Okay. Any that are not written down?
Nothing's coming to mind.
Okay. Maybe it'll come later. Feel free to ask on Twitter, on X, or on YouTube, right? And the idea is to have a place where there's a resource for people, but that requires the cooperation of the algorithms. So, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Take good care.